Our next session for the evening is a really interesting one. It's called Impossible Secrets, Coming of Age Stories for Young Adults. In a world where you can be anyone, be you, they say. The first step to getting there is finding a way to love yourself. Is that the impossible secret? Our next session promises to be a fun one. We have Anmol Malik, who goes by RJ Piano when she dons her authoress hat. She is a young author, singer, songwriter who believes in doing new things every day. She's been published multiple times, and her latest book, 3 Impossible Wishes, is a coming-of-age story about finding love. Joining Anmol is Vibha Batra, a Chennai-based author, graphic novelist, advertising consultant, poet, lyricist, translator, playwright, travel writer, and columnist. She has 17 books to her name. Her travelogues have appeared in The Hindu, Condé Nast Traveler, Deccan Chronicle, and The Week. Her plays have been staged during the Short and Sweet Theatre Festival in South India, and her play Cold Feet also won the Best Script Award in 2017. She conducts creative writing workshops for children and adults at the British Council, Chennai. Anmol and Vibha are going to be in conversation with RJ Mehak, host of the mid-morning show on 98.3 Mirchi Chandigarh, a happiness partner, and a syndicated Punjabi night show for Radio Mirchi Punjab and online radio. She also hosts a YouTube series called Kitab Ki Awaaz for Radio Mirchi's storytelling and poetry channel, Mirchi Scribbled, where she talks about books and their authors. She chooses books over Netflix, is an introvert, and yet loves to talk to the city every day. RJ Mehak, over to you.
Hello, good evening. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Anmol. Hi, Vibha. It's so good to see you guys, and I welcome everyone who is watching us across the screens, across the world. And I think this is for the first time that we're doing it online. And so I am super, super excited to be asking questions. And I think these both the books, okay? So I've gone through both these books, and these are extremely relatable, and I'm sure as a reader, the young adult readership is absolutely enjoying what you've written. So my first question is from you, Anmol. 3 Impossible Wishes is a rom-com, but the kind of rom-coms that we read and we see, it's pretty different. So it's a frivolous rom-com, and it's not like a usual frivolous rom-com. So there are a lot of serious topics that you have touched while you've written the book. And how did you even think of this idea? So, there is this rom-com that is already set, the theme is rom-com, but then you also have extremely serious issues. And there's another thing that I loved about the book was the sense of humor that you've used while you've written it. So if you can please tell us, how come you just came up with this idea?
Okay, I think you said that this is not a frivolous rom-com, and I think Vibha would agree with me on this one, that rom-coms tend to get a bad rap. They're often described as being just, we just have fun and it's all fluff and sunshine. That's not the case. I love rom-coms because I think they're like a slice of life, and they package very serious issues very happily. So it's like a little bit of sunshine and it's all sugar, but if you really go to the core of it, there are very important issues that it's speaking about. 3 Impossible Wishes, which is my book, actually is set in the year when the 26/11 terrorist attacks happened in Bombay. There was an increase in crime rate in Birmingham, where this story is kind of set, and it also massively touches upon this aspect. What does it take to move from your home to study or work in a city that's not yours? And I think we need to touch upon that now, because it's such a global world. We all are constantly shifting. We're never in the same city. And what does that imply? What do you face? Economic pressures, racial pressures, just trying to find your own identity and make your mark. All of this is kind of packaged into a very funny love story of a Russian boy and an Indian girl. And that's what I wanted to showcase with my rom-com.
Right. So I am definitely going to come back to the Indian teenager girl and the Russian boy. It's extremely interesting. And my question to Vibha is that, so when I was reading this book of yours, I could see a lot of social media being used. Yeah. So there was Instagram, and then there was a lot of chats, and the language that people use these days, not only millennials, but the new age teenagers, which is definitely different than us. I wanted to say the older version, but I'll just say the new version, the new version of people. They are using the kind of language that probably we didn't use when we were a teenager. So do you believe that social media has affected not only our lives, but also our writing style as an author, as a writer?
I'm so glad you asked that, because once you have social media out, I mean, you can't totally resist the siren call of social. So hypnotic. Every morning I just get good. Say I'm just going to. I don't care about phone. I go on a digital detox. But then I'm just going to scroll through my time. Just five, and the next thing I know, so I'm so glad you asked. Absolutely it does. But there's no getting away. So, if you can't beat them, join them. So, which is why it figures very in my book.
So, Anmol, I will ask you this question. So, like I said, that we will discuss this Russian boy and the Indian teenager girl. So, it is something that is so unexpected, and there are so many beautiful plot twists in the book. Can you maybe just please tell us that how did you come up with this? You broke so many stereotypes with this one book. It's a complete package, I would say. How did you even, so it was like into the flow, or did you thought of it that I am going to break a lot of stereotypes, I'm going to normalize a lot of things, or it just came up to you?
Honestly, it just, okay, so my background is actually screenwriting. I've studied creative writing from the University of Warwick, which is in England. And when I start writing, it's very natural for me to start immediately thinking in terms of scenes. Even when I'm discussing the book, I probably won't be saying so-and-so chapter, I'll probably be saying so-and-so scene. And I think what that affects is the dynamic between your characters, because my book tends to be very dialogue heavy. I feel a dialogue gives you more about a character than just a general description, the way they speak. And it's so important in this book because you not only have an Indian girl, you have a girl from Mumbai, and she's got friends who are from Delhi. She's got friends who are from Karachi, Lahore, Russia. And she's very, very friendly with this bar owner who is Scottish, which basically means that everybody's accent and everybody's thought processes and upbringing is going to be very different. So there's this whole cultural amalgamation that's happening. And then I didn't have to do any much work. The minute these characters just kind of threw themselves at each other, magic happened.
And while we're talking about magic, I believe magic, love, and poetry, they just go hand in hand. So my next question to Vibha would be that we definitely know that you love poetry and you are a poet yourself. So can you please tell us how come you fell in love with poetry? And so because you are an author as well, and you love poetry. And also if you can share a few lines with us.
Okay, so I'm going to have to blame it on like everything else in my life. So I grew up in Kolkata, surrounded by books and young. So I decided to concentrate on eating but my parents are avid readers. My late father was an avid reader and a prolific author, and some of their love just rubbed off on me. After a point, I just could not ignore books. So that's how it happened. And poetry, why don't I share something my grandpa wrote? So it goes, दिल मिलता नहीं किया जाता है, काम होता नहीं किया जाता है, किनारे बैठना तो सांस लेना, बीच तरंगों के.
Wow.
That's it, guys.
Wow. That was beautiful. So I was honestly expecting something in English, but Hindi was such a pleasant surprise. But that was so beautiful. Wow. So Vibha, like we are actually talking about what you write. Do you feel that your writings are influenced by someone or something that you experienced in maybe the early years of your life, or is it something that you look up to? So what's the difference?
I would say it's a bit of everything because, I just let life inspire me. Books I read, movies I watch, people I meet, even those pesky people you don't like. So, I get inspired by everything and everything. So, yes, I would say, my poetry and my books are a result of that.
Right. Wow.
Sorry.
Okay, so my next...
Sorry, the timeline. Because, I the answer, and I was thinking, like Geet from Jab We Met, aap convince ho gaye ho ki main aur bolu. So, but I think
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, okay. That is, I think, universal favorite. And I'm sure both the books are getting such beautiful responses and reviews. They're going to be as big hit as Jab We Met, I'm sure. Because I loved reading both the books. And there is this common thing between these books is that it's written for young adults. And also the fact that the character Arya, named Arya. So that was something that I found very interesting. And coming back to Anmol's Arya. So there is this beautiful Desi representation, right? So she is an Indian girl from Mumbai and now she's in Birmingham. And then there is so much of change. The culture shock, I'm sure. And there is so much of Desi representation that people are loving. So if you can share...
it's not just about the Desi representation, though it is a lot about it because it comes from a very personal space. Okay, so Arya is very much like so many people I've met who think so very little about themselves. They don't realize how cool they are and how awesome they are. And Arya has that self-doubt. Her entire goal in life is to be invisible and, just slip in through the cracks. There is this rumor roaming around campus that if you fail your exams, you don't just fail the year, you get deported, which is a terribly mean rumor. Can you imagine the pressure already being an international student and then having to deal with that? So Arya responds in the only way she knows how, which is jugaad. She's like, okay, you know what? I can't study. I'm very bad at it. So I'm going to try and cheat the system. And that's the entire theme. Like that's the one thread that's running through the book, which is I'm going to hire the class topper to sit for my exams. That's it. That's her thinking. And from that very simple point, we begin this entire journey with this one Indian girl who kind of starts growing up. And I'll tell you why. She comes from a very privileged background. I think a lot of us grow up with our parents. At least I do thank God for a lot of the opportunities that have been given to me. When I went to university for the first time, I realized a lot of people don't actually have that opportunity. A lot of my friends came from, one of them was someone who'd come in on scholarship. The other one came from a broken home. And suddenly I was a lot more appreciative of my own family. And then I realized that a lot of the Indians, including me, didn't know so much. We didn't know how to clean up after ourselves. We didn't know how to wash up. We weren't very responsible. And I think university was a big growing up and getting mature really, really quickly. And that's when we meet the Russian. He's someone who's there on a complete sponsorship. And he kind of looks down at Arya. He's just like, why are you so helpless? Why don't you stand up on your feet? And there's that give and take in their relationship. And he also kind of learns from the Desis how to be a lot more warmer, how to be someone who should have fun, who should think a little bit more from the heart, because that is what Desis do. We move around with our friends and we're just far more lively. And I think that comes from a very personal space for me when I was writing that.
I'm sure. So
Long answer.
No. But I totally agree. Please don't call it a long answer. That was great. And I read it somewhere. I was reading a book, and the preface of the book said that nothing comes out from vacuum. So fiction is something that is not purely fiction. It always comes out of something. So what do you have to say about it?
This is for me. Can Vibha also jump
Yes,
in? Or am I?
this one is for you, Anmol, because it is in continuation of the same question.
You know, Richard Curtis, who's actually one of my favorite writers, and he's not an author, he's actually a screenwriter. He's written Love Actually, and he's written Notting Hill, and all the movies that I've loved growing up. He said you should write about what you know, because there's this kind of authenticity that comes with it. So obviously, Three Impossible Wishes is based a lot on my university years. It is based on a lot of the people I've met over the years. But all the characters have a bit of me. The good characters have some of my good traits. The bad characters have some of my negative traits. But it does come from a space where there are a lot of lessons that I personally learned at university, and that's kind of found its way into this book. So yes, you need to write about what you know, I suppose. I mean, at least currently, because I feel I'm still very, very young. So for me at this stage, the learning that I'm doing, I'm just, writing about what I know.
Right. But you took the bigger step. You wrote the book. You started writing it, and now you have a book in your hand. So that is something, because so many people aspire to become a writer, but then...
That's all thanks to HarperCollins, though. It's surreal that they decided to take a chance on me, and I don't have enough words to thank them for it.
So Vibha, my question to you, like Anmol just mentioned, that she's just a book old, but the book is doing so well, and you have 16, 17 books, and you've already written them. And what is your driving force? What is this thing that keeps you on? And how do you make the new book is more fresh than the previous book? How do you manage that?
That's a really good question. Vibha.
That you said, manage to be fresh, because I don't to the readers. But the thing is, I'm very, very, very compulsive. I've got to write. I can't not write. If I'm not writing some pop, I've got to get back to it. So I guess that's the drive. And actually, I've not written just 17. I've published 17. There are many more, but they are in different stages of rejection, production, and God knows.
Right. Okay, so
I do agree with Vibha. There is this need to constantly keep writing. If you spend a day not writing, you feel a little odd, a little incomplete. And I think there's always a story that's playing in the back of our heads. Always.
And it needs to be written. It should be written.
Oh my God. The writing is the hard part. The dreaming, not so much.
But so my question is a common question. So I'm going to ask this same question to both of you. And I think, Vibha, you can start with answering this one first. So because you have written so many books, and Anmol has also said that, there is this story that is always playing back of your mind, and then you need to start writing. So the journey of being an aspiring writer to a published author, how do you think you came to this status? And also, if there are people who are dreaming about writing a book, the aspiring writers, what tips would you like to give to them?
I'm always asked this question. I'm totally certain there are a lot of well-meaning advice come my way over the what, it just comes in one ear, goes out the other. I think people just figure out their own lives, their own way, whatever works for them. So just run away from unsolicited advice, giving or receiving. So they are just to each their own. For me, there's always a story in my head, and I write the book in my head, and then I'm dying to get it out on Microsoft Word. I'm just so glad it happens. no set process for it. There are good days and there are bad days, and there are very bad days. So
Right. So I think I am going to come to this writer's blog thing as well. So Anmol, what tips would you like to give to people who dream of writing a book?
First, I find I'm in no position to give anyone advice. I would say this though, having learned it over the years, is it's very daunting facing a blank document. Just start on something and see it through. Do not. It's very tempting to leave an idea for another idea. I know it because I face it, but finish something that you have in hand and it'll hold you in good stead. And I'm saying this because writing a book has been a dream of mine for the longest time. I worked as a copywriter with Leo Burnett. I worked at UTV Disney. I worked at YRF, and all through that journey, I learned very valuable lessons from some amazing people. And I know how difficult it is to get a debut published. And you kind of hope that there are nice people out there who respond favorably to you. And luckily, at some point in my life, in that whole 10-year journey, finally I did meet some amazing people. I met Tara from Bound India. I met Kanishka, who's from Writer's Side, who became the agent who took my book to Swati, who was the commissioning editor at Harper. And that's how the whole journey for Three Impossible Wishes kind of started. So these are people who the book attracted. And I know it's difficult getting a debut published, but just please hang in there. It's going to happen.
Right. So you need to have the hope. And of course, keep writing. Don't keep it here. Start writing.
Always.
So Vibha, there is this beautiful thing in your book that Debbie has an Instagram account now. So, and she's shocked that there is, oh my God, so many followers, and suddenly. So there is this personality that we have on social media, and then there is this personality that we have in our real life. So I'm not going to say that the virtual life isn't real, but it's not as real as it is when we are at home and when we are on Instagram. We are two different people. That's what I believe, because that's what I've observed. So as a writer, as an observer, because of course you observed it in a lot of teenagers, that they have probably a different personality on social media and they are completely different when they are talking to their friends offline. So what do you think, this change and this variation, is it affecting the teenagers? Because I think teenage is the kind of age where you set your base. Whatever you do in your teenage, the kind of music you listen to in your teenage, when you grow up, you come back to that music, it's euphoric. So, of course, teenage has a lot of importance to play, a beautiful big part to play into what we become. So, what do you think? How different it is, and if the teenagers of now and the teenagers that we were, are they different because of social media? So if you can please tell us.
Okay, a bit heartbreaking because you said we were teenagers, because in my head I'm very young. I just my 7-year-old, and as my hubby says, I am too. So I'm just going to answer we, not the royal we, the collective. So I think we are the same. We are still, getting up to stuff we should not, falling in love, getting our hearts broken, rolling our eyes at our parents, and using unparliamentary language. Now we are armed with smartphones and not landlines, and of course social media, the best thing to have happened to the world. And I don't. So yeah, I think emotional universal, and we are always going to be the same. But having said that, yeah, we are living a life under this cloak of anonymity, so we can say and do a lot of stuff, and we think we'll get away with it. That's what Debbie or Arya, the protagonist in my book, thinks. But ultimately, you just get up with her.
Right. So, like we talked about the effect of reality into the books that we write. So even Anmol mentioned that if you have experienced something like that, it's easier to write. So there's another thing that I loved about Three Impossible Wishes was the beautiful balance between seriousness, and then there was this sense of humor that it just went hand in hand. And so the moment you feel that okay, things are getting serious, there was some kind of sense of humor that came on, and we're like, okay, that is a nice thing. Okay, so the tension is released. So how did you bring that balance? How did you bring it in?
Again, that's from the screenwriting background, because before we set out to write a screenplay, you'll have you'll kind of divide it into 3 acts. You'll have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and you'll always have these little turning points in the story, which we call plot points. I know that's there even when you plot a book. They're like pegs when you're writing a screenplay, and I think at every point that I was writing a scene or a chapter, I knew that the plot point would have to come in just to keep that rhythm, of the story going. But also it's just the way Arya talks in the book. I mean, she's 19 in the book, and that's such an odd age. You're not an adult yet, you haven't left your teens, but it's an age when nothing really happens, and that's the age we catch these kids in. They're all 19 and they're wondering what life has in store for them. So I think it's just the way they talk.
Right. So, Vibha, coming back to you, and of course, like we are talking about the teenager part. So, the book is for young adults. Do you think it is harder to write for young adults as compared to the normal when you target the normal adult readership, or is it easier?
I would say it's the same, because when you're writing for young adults, you're writing about acne, you're writing about parental expectations, you're writing about school bullies. But when you're writing for adults, you're writing about adult acne, you're writing about office bullies, and you're writing about parents. The only difference is that when you're writing for young adults, you have to be very careful. It should be something, the censor board would hardly approve of. So we've just found a way around it. So of using those words, we just use safe words. For instance, shut the front door, rabbit, aerosol, what an air, and basket. So get away, simply the reason that we don't want the parents of our readers to burn our effigies, pelt stones at our house, or do whatever it is that people do to show democracy. But other than that, I think there's no difference. Same.
Right. Yeah, because I did read Anmol word in the book Rucksack. I've been enjoying it. Whenever it came down in the book, I have absolutely enjoyed it. The word. And Anmol, when I started reading Three Impossible Wishes, I read about this technique that she's taught by her mother, that you need to have 3 wishes, and and I was constantly thinking this is something that I would like to maybe utilize in my life. So if you can tell us about that technique of having 3 wishes, of deciding on those 3 wishes.
The poor mom, her mother has basically told her that you make 3 impossible wishes, and one of those impossible wishes will come true. And she's basically cut through that system and said, I'm going to keep all the wishes interconnected. So if one comes true, all comes true. And that is very characteristic of Arya. Everything in her life is a giant jugaad. I don't know if you could hear that. Did it break up? Could you hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, her mom has been very decent and told her the right thing to do, but Arya has still managed to find a toad in even that.
Yeah, which is, I think I'm going to vouch for it. I'm going to ask everyone to read the book for sure, because this technique is something that everybody should learn. It's very intelligent, so smart. And so, coming to wishes only, Anmol, what are your 3 impossible wishes?
Oh God.
Use the same technique and tell us.
Use the same technique. Well, I want to write more books. I want to write more. I don't know if they're going to be books, but I want to write more, whether it's music or it's just stories. My second wish is, I'm not really sure, but right now I just want all of us to be happy, because I find this kind of very heavy silence in the world, and I hope things get better very soon. And I don't have a third wish just yet. I only want to write. Like, that is my wish, because the more I write, the more I learn.
And according to that technique, this one is going to come true. So, like you relate to Arya, Vibha, I want to ask you this question. There are some amazing characters in the book, and I am going to actually mention this that the dialogue that the mother tells her that you choose you're happy as much as you choose to be, right? So that when I read it in the book, I made it my WhatsApp status right away. I loved
Or
the line.
you wife might think like got it from the book. Okay.
Yeah, so I loved that one. I really did. And so I wanted to ask you, which character of this book you relate to the most, that you vibe with it.
So make me choose. It's going to be like Joey in that episode of Friends when they between sex and food, and he's like, then he's like, no sex. So it's going to be like that. I can't. I just love. And to me, they're very real because I've spent so much time with them. I started writing the book 2.5 years ago, and it released last month. Spent so much time with them. They're so real to me, so real and dear to me. Possibly couldn't.
And while I was asking Anmol about the stereotypes that have been mentioned in the book, there is also this chocolatey complexion, chocolatey color, that the word that you've used in the book. So, did you also plan on breaking stereotypes, but or you didn't? I mean, it just came up. When they go shopping, and she's told that this is going to complement your chocolatey color. So,
Yeah. That a big theme of the book is body positivity and bullying and peer pressure. So I just wanted to just bring that in, how subtly it's done. Bring it, they're like, oh, we're just teasing you, but it's word that's just euphemism for body. So that's what was happening. Yara was doing that to us, and I just wanted to bring in subtly, because the minute you start, going heavy with and all that, I think you just put people off. At least I get put off. So, but make it fun, if you just layer it a lot of fun stuff, I think somewhere ring a bell. So that's what I'm trying to do.
right, because this is something that I felt like I related to it personally as well. Because when I was growing up, I used to get these comments a lot for the complexion, for the way I looked, and that probably shapes you up. But then, of course, you know how to handle it. And to some extent, when you see it in the movies, it's made into a huge scene, and in that scene, it is heroic to give back an answer. But in real life, we actually give a very subtle kind of response. We kind of ignore it, or we just have a reaction.
Yeah, because when people would tell me, oh my god, kitni phool gayi hai, itni moti ho gayi hai, and then I would be like, very apologetic.
Yeah,
But not
right.
now, of course, the run. But yeah, back I would be like,
Right. So this is something that I think we, as three of us, I think we can agree to, that as women, we actually grew up listening to a lot of unwanted and not so required comments about our appearance and the way we look. And like you mentioned about the weight part, and because the aim of the book was to bring out body positivity. So is it relatable to something? So if you can just maybe share an experience from your life where we can probably, understand that, okay, so this is how Vibha did the process. Her journey was from this person who was apologetic to this person who is unapologetic. The way she is, she loves it, and that's why people around her love that about you. And I think I'm going to answer it a bit for you. I think your sense of humor is something that is beautiful, that makes you beautifully unapologetic. So if you can share some personal experiences here.
I will, absolutely. So I was at the airport and student came running up to me. Please. So I was very excited. I said, Didi and not auntie, that's amazing. So I said, you've read my books? So they gave me a blank and they said, in your movie. So I said, then it was my turn to give a blank. What movie? So they said, aren't you that wrestler in Dangal? And I was like, Pehelwan wrestler, oh my God. And all those repressed memories from teenhood, came rushing back because fatty, fat, so good. Amul baby, these were just some of my names. And it did help, because every time I would ask my parents, "Dad, please be honest, do I need to lose weight?" And they would, just remind it, if you say this, but you look kamzor. So, I was like, oh my God, I'm absolutely fine. The rest of the world was like, yeah, that's how they measure pants. I just thought I have to write something, write a book where, the protagonist is on the plus size, because that would be my love, my self. So if we can just be as sweet and as nice as we are with our crush or with our bae, if we showed some of that love to ourselves, I think it would be great.
Right. So, before we end the session, there's another common question that I'm going to ask both of you. The question would be, Anmol, first, if you can answer. Are you planning some other, maybe, are you thinking about the new book yet? Because we would love to know what next is going to come from you, and we are extremely excited to read what you've written, apart from Three Impossible Wishes. So if you can share a bit about that.
That's very kind of you to appreciate the book. I am constantly writing, but I firmly believe that every bit of art that you create comes with its own destiny. So I'm in no position to predict what's going to happen to it next, but I'm constantly thinking of new things and putting it down on paper. So fingers crossed something great comes out of it.
And I have to add here that the end of this book is so amazing. It's going to leave you on the cliff, and yeah, so I am actually creating a lot of suspense about the book, but I really want you to, if my request can work, I would really want you to write a sequel to this one. We would want to know what happens next.
I would love to do that. So, aapke muh mein ghee aur shakkar, and I hope the universe is listening.
Absolutely, I've sent it out to the universe. Vibha, same question to you. What are you going to write next? What is it going to be about?
Okay, so I'm writing a book for adults, not in the 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing, just a story for older readers where I have to watch my words. So that's what's coming up next.
Right. So where the words like rucksack can be more elaborated. The kind of books we do.
A nickname, yeah, but yeah, the Dan Rabbit totally replaced by unparliamentary alternatives.
That's so cool. But I have to absolutely mention this, that your book is not only amazing to read, but it's amazing to even look at. And that's why I am going to request, actually, both of you, if you guys have your books with you, we can have a virtual selfie before we end the session. Although it is said that we don't judge the book by its cover, but if somebody has put so much of efforts on the cover and the beautiful name of the author is on the book, we should definitely appreciate.
Let's click.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to use my phone to do that as well. Yay! Okay, so this looks great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Anmol. Thank you so much, Vibha. These books are amazing. I'm so happy and I feel so lucky that I could read these two books. I honestly, if it wasn't for this, probably this would have not come down to me that quickly, but I loved reading it. I actually got a great excuse to not work and read more. So I was enjoying that as well. But on a very serious note, I loved speaking to both of you. Thank you so much for writing such beautiful books.